What's up, guys, and welcome back to another Accidentally Intentional podcast episode. I am very excited because not only are we ending the relational health series with a bang, I have brought in my friend Anna, who is a certified dietitian, to talk about a very important topic today, one that a lot of people have been Googling lately, apparently. And so we're going to actually get right into it. Today's topic is our relationship with food.
Yep.
And how that actually impacts all of our other relationships.
Yeah.
So I'm really excited to talk to you about this today,
too.
Anna, because I'm confused. Let me just start by saying that.
A lot of people are, I think.
I'm so confused because one, we have this like food pyramid thing we learned growing up.
Yeah.
Then I just heard about new food recommendations where I was told I should eat Fruit Loops now. And then I eat mac and cheese that doesn't have mac or cheese in it now. Yeah. It's like chickpeas and something else.
Yes, not real noodles.
It's confusing. It's confusing. I don't really know what is considered good, bad, healthy, unhealthy anymore. So can you start this episode by kind of sharing with us how we should think about what we eat to start with?
Yeah, no, I think lots of people are confused. I have people talk to me every day and ask, what should I eat? What's good? What's bad? I don't know. And the food pyramid has kind of gone away in recent years. They came out with the most recent recommendations, like put out by like CDC and things, is the My Plate. Okay. So to like think about it more at each meal instead of a full day requirements.
Okay.
Which I think sometimes is helpful.
Yeah.
And I think thinking about those food groups as, okay, I should have a vegetable with every meal. I should have a fruit with every meal. That sort of thing is easier for most people.
Yeah.
Instead of like, oh, I need to consume 7 vegetables every single day. Like that's overwhelming.
Mm-hmm. For sure.
So yeah, I think that's kind of the direction things have been going. And I'm also not one to classify foods as good and bad.
Okay.
So, every food can have a place in our diet. Now, should we be eating Fruit Loops every single morning for breakfast? Probably not.
Okay, noted.
I'm not going to recommend that to people. But, like, if you love Fruit Loops, I'm never going to tell somebody, like, oh, you can never eat those Fruit Loops again, okay?
Yeah.
Because that's going to make us want them that much more, right? And then if we keep, restrict, eventually most people then fall out of that and then binge, and that's when the overeating tends to happen.
Yeah. So what is like, how, because I fall into this trap, right?
Yeah.
Where I'm like 0 or 100. There's no in between.
Yeah.
So how do we learn this balance of, no, you're allowed to have dessert.
Yeah.
You just shouldn't have it X amount. Like,
yes.
As if I'm your client right now, explain to me what that should look like.
Yeah, that's a great question. And it's a hard thing to almost reteach our bodies. And I always use the example of toddlers when talking about these situations. So, because we talk a lot about like intuitive eating and mindful eating, and I'm sure you've heard of those, buzzwords going around in diet culture and stuff.
Mindfulness, big thing.
Yes, it is. So when we think about a toddler, they've had no outside influence on, oh, you should eat this, you should eat that, your body should look a certain way. If you eat these foods, that's going to make, like, they've had none of that. They're kind of like starting from scratch at, 2 years old.
Right.
And if you think about how they eat, they're truly listening to those internal cues. So their internal hunger cue, their internal fullness cue, that's all they're going based on. They're not going based on what they saw on TV or saw in a magazine.
Okay.
So if we kind of like think about it like that, and it's hard because, you and I'm 32. I've had all these years of this outside influence.
Right.
Influencing what I think I should eat, how I should eat, how much I should eat, how I should look, and how food affects how I look.
Totally.
So it's a process to almost reset your body and say like, okay, no, I've got to listen to that internal hunger cue and fullness cue. And I think it's important for people to allow themselves to be okay with eating something that maybe somebody else is telling them, hey, that's not healthy. So that can be really, really hard, and it's not going to happen overnight.
Yeah.
It takes time and it takes practice, just like, you go practice for soccer. It takes practice to kind of make that healthy relationship with food.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And I love that you just gave that example of like, hey, that's not healthy. Someone's saying that to you.
Yeah.
Why do we have this tendency to get so offended when somebody's like, hey, that's not healthy? As if like food is us and we are food.
Yeah.
It's so weird.
There's so much emotion tied to food.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I've read things that are like, the right relationship with food is our most important relationship.
Mm-hmm.
Like it is tied to everything. It's tied to our culture, our, relationships with other people, our family. There's nostalgia that comes with certain foods.
Mm-hmm.
Then like you throw in the emotional component of, certain foods bring us comfort, certain foods bring us joy. It's a coping mechanism for so many people. So there's high emotions tied to food at baseline. Mm-hmm. So if your favorite food is, whatever, strawberry pie, whatever it might be.
Yeah.
But then somebody's like, oh, that's really bad for you. You shouldn't eat that. Like, that's high emotion. Like, that's your favorite food.
Sure.
You're going to be upset if
you have
somebody
now threatened
tells
me.
you. Exactly.
Don't take this away.
Yeah, don't take my strawberry pie.
Yes.
So I'm realizing that's a very probably Southern thing. I don't think they have that many
Chicken
places.
noodle soup is my thing.
There you go. There you go. So it's a hard thing. Like that emotion's always going to be tied to food. Mm-hmm. We're not going to get rid of that emotion and those feelings tied to food. I think part of it is, we need to stop judging others and like putting our thoughts and, impressions of things on other people.
Yeah.
I think is probably part of it too.
Yeah, and I love that, which means I want to ask this next question about there is that tendency we might have to be like, I'm concerned about someone.
Yeah.
How do we know when it's a rational concern? That's part one. And part two, if it is actually a valid concern, how do we bring that up gently to somebody?
Yeah. That's a tough one. And I think it would take someone that you're close to know it is a valid concern.
Great point right there. Do not be going up to somebody whose heart you do not know to be like, yeah,
right. Yeah. Like I'm not going up to people on the street. Even as a dietitian, I'm not going up to random people on the street and saying like, hey, you shouldn't eat that, or this isn't good, or you need to be doing this.
Yes.
Like that's not how it happens. And that's not how anybody that
cares about people.
Yeah.
Amen. Yes.
Yes. So that's the first thing. Like, it better be someone really close to you if you feel concerned about them.
Yeah.
And I think identifying, there's probably going to be some signs, is somebody not coming around anymore, like not going out to dinner with friends anymore, or, you notice like holidays are really tough. There's lots of different things that you might see when somebody doesn't have a healthy relationship with food.
Yeah.
Or if they're always really, really concerned, like, oh, they're in MyFitnessPal all day, every day, logging all their calories. Or it's like, oh, well, that's 100 calories. Like, I can't eat that. Or this is like things like that. If you notice with someone, like, that's getting, to that unhealthy relationship and borderline like eating disorder, that sort of thing. But there's also the flip side of maybe people are eating really unhealthy and you feel like, oh, this is affecting their long-term health. So, my background is in diabetes. So I'm a certified diabetes educator. So that's mainly what I work in. So I think from that perspective, from a like long-term health, like diabetes risk, high blood pressure risk, cholesterol risk, that standpoint of like having concern for someone is also very valid.
Absolutely. Yeah.
So there's lots of ways to look at it. And, if you're close with someone, sit down and talk to them and have a conversation and just ask them maybe hey, how are things going? And keep it very, very broad and open and not attack.
Sure. More curiosity.
Yes.
Instead of this is what's happening.
Yeah.
I love that. You know, you bring up a good point when I've never even thought about that before, of paying attention to, is this person suddenly not participating in events like socially, etc. You can already see that it's starting to impact your relationships if your food insecurities, like let's just start there, bleed over into your relationships with others. Yeah. And if you're invited somewhere, that's a perfect example, people want you there.
Right.
So if you're saying, sorry, if you don't show up, you're essentially saying, food is deciding for me, I'm not coming.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's a very, we can't let food control us. And I think there's a lot of people that struggle with that because they are so worried about the food they eat, how much they eat, what they're eating, how it's affecting so many different things. And like I said, it's a hard thing to get away from, like relearning and having that and building that healthy relationship with food.
Yeah. And how would you go about building a healthy relationship with food where, especially like in America, what we do socially is mostly over food and over drinking? Yeah. How does that work?
Yeah. It's all about balance. I mean, there's no perfect diet. Nobody's perfect. That doesn't exist. For sure. And so I really think finding that balance and not feeling shame around food. I know, and again, that it's hard to retrain our body, but not feeling guilty about going out and having that dessert or going out with your friends and having those drinks and appetizers that, maybe that wasn't the best choice, but it's okay. Like, that's okay. Like, we don't need to feel guilty about the foods that we're eating.
And speaking of using food for like social drinking, social eating, that's a pretty good place to have a conversation. So that being said, I need to bring up Party Cues, which is today's sponsor. What is Party Cues, you ask? Party Cues is a free app that offers a variety of thought-provoking and conversation-starting questions to break the ice and to get the party going. With Party Cues, there are no more boring or service conversations, and there is no more awkward silences or stumbling for something to say. Because with Party Cues, you'll have a never-ending supply of interesting and unique topics to discuss. So it's pretty incredible. Whether you're at a dinner party or a networking event or just hanging out with friends, Party Cues will guarantee a great time and depth of conversation. You can think of Party Cues as the ultimate wingman for your social life. I love whipping out the Party Cues app and asking my friends or my husband the questions that are here so that we can get to know each other even better. So the next time you're planning a get-together, a date, a hangout, a one-on-one, anything where conversation is important, then don't forget to bring along Party Cues, which, as a reminder, is a free app that you can download right now on the App Store and on Google Play. So let the good times roll, my friend. Download the free app. I promise you'll love it. And how would you go about advising someone to get out of a shame spiral that they're feeling around food?
Oh gosh, that's a tough one. I think having a support person is really important.
So you need a relationship, it sounds like.
Exactly.
To be able to get through this. Interesting.
Yeah.
But I love that because there really isn't anything we can ever do on our own.
No.
And you're so much better together. We're all so much stronger when we're working together. So
yeah,
the only thing in my mind that you would have to lose by being vulnerable in a conversation like that is your pride, Yeah. And what are you gaining on the other side of that?
There's a lot to gain.
Exactly. Someone or multiple people who want to walk alongside with you in it, you gain longevity. Mm-hmm. You gain energy, which is what I want to talk about next. And there's so much more. And the depth of connection that can come over food and from food is so powerful when we channel it correctly.
Yeah. Oh, absolutely.
So I want to lean into energy versus like sluggish foods.
Yeah.
Because obviously if you don't have energy, you're not showing up for your people the same way.
Absolutely.
And that's important.
Yes. And I think that's, food is fuel. I think that's, first and foremost, we always have to remember that.
Yeah.
But we're going to feel better eating some foods than other foods. And looking, like you said, with that sluggishness, like so often I have patients tell me, like, I just don't have any energy. And the first thing we talk about is, okay, what are we eating throughout the day? There's not a magic pill. I'm not just going to be like, oh, take some vitamin.
Yeah.
We got to look at what are we feeding our body, and what might give us more energy.
Yeah.
And there's no one food that's like, oh, this is going to give you so much energy. It all goes back to that balance.
Okay.
And, having a balanced diet of, yes, we're including fruits and vegetables. Yes, we're including the whole grains. We're getting good sources of protein, good healthy fats, all of that balance. Do we have the occasional, cupcake? Yeah. But are we still getting those beneficial nutrients from all of those food groups?
I love that. So we're talking about balance, and we're talking about, foods that give energy, foods that make you sluggish. I want to get a little bit more granular.
Yeah.
How would you first simplify this for someone that is listening right now and they're just like, okay, yeah, my relationship with food isn't that great. Like, what can I do about it?
Yeah. That's a great question. I think keeping it simple is first and foremost. So maybe start with one meal. So whether it's breakfast, lunch, dinner, pick a meal to start with.
Okay.
And, just break it down. So do I have a fruit? Do I have a vegetable? Okay. Those are always things that we can include that are going to make us feel better.
Should we include, for instance, just because you said it.
Yep.
Should we include fruits and vegetables with every meal? Or what are the things that we should have consistently in every meal?
Yeah. I would recommend a fruit or a vegetable or both at every meal.
Okay. Gotcha.
I know people tell me all the time, like, how am I supposed to eat a vegetable at breakfast? But it is possible.
It is. You throw some spinach in them eggs.
Spinach and the eggs. Delicious.
Amen. I love it.
The other thing we want to think about is protein.
Okay.
So whether that's from meat, whether it's from eggs, whether it's from nuts and seeds, or even cheese has protein, any of those things. Am I getting some good protein? Because that's going to help keep us full longer. Okay. So that satiety that is so important to kind of reach at meals. The other thing is, which this is usually controversial because the whole like low carb, keto, all of that, we need some carbohydrates, okay? We can't not eat carbs, all right? I'm not going to tell you to cut out bread or anything like that.
Yeah.
But look at, the quality of our carbohydrates. And, again, it's okay if you really want that slice of white bread, have the piece of white bread. But all, those kind of make up a well-balanced meal.
Okay. And you said good protein. I want to double click on that for a second. Because Jared and I have talked in our episode about protein, but in your experience, what qualifies as good protein? Is it a certain amount? Is it a certain quality of like the meat, etc.?
I would say a certain amount. But again, going back to keeping things simple,
right?
Don't overthink that.
Okay.
Did I eat, even if it's only 2 bites? Did I eat some protein at that meal? Just keep it simple. And you can always improve on that. Like,
sure.
I
so
think,
it's like that. This is a starting point.
Yes.
Did I win today by eating protein? Yes.
Yes, exactly.
Got it. Which that makes a lot of sense because I think about days where, let's say I'm on the road and I have like a sandwich for lunch and it has like 2 slices of turkey in it. And then I have like a pasta bowl for dinner and I was like, I'm dragging.
Yes. Yeah.
Because it's so unbalanced. It's so carb heavy.
Right.
Which we're not saying carbs are bad, but it's so off.
Yes.
Off
You don't have the balance. We
Yeah.
need that balance. And I talk about this every day with patients who have diabetes because our main concern is controlling their blood sugars, which, if you don't have diabetes, no, that's not your main concern, but it still applies. Okay.
Sure.
We all have we all have blood sugars. So
Yes.
we don't have to control them as much as somebody who has diabetes, but they still need to be controlled.
Yeah.
And that balance is just so, so important. And lots of the research has shown us that the more consistent we are with meal to meal. So one meal is like all carbs, then the next meal all protein, and then in a meal, maybe we have a little bit of each. That's not great for our bodies.
Okay.
That consistency. So having the same amounts of like carbohydrates and protein at each meal is actually better for us.
Interesting.
So that consistent, because our body knows what to expect. So it knows like, hey, this is coming. Hey, this is like.
Because it's adapting.
Yes.
Got it. Wow.
So when we're like yo-yoing all over the place, so is our body. Because our body's like, I don't know. And that kind of goes back to, when we are fasting and things like that, if our body doesn't know when our next meal is, it's going to hang on to everything it got and not burn many calories. So,
Storing the fat, you're saying?
yes.
Wow. And you know what else that impacts that I've experienced is your emotional state,
Yes.
which is dangerous.
It is.
Because let's just talk about like hunger for a second.
Yeah.
You don't want to be anywhere near me.
Right.
When I get to that.
And that also can lead to the overeating because we get so hungry that then we're like eating everything in sight and it's like, I can't get enough, and we consume so much in a short period of time.
I'm 100% guilty of that.
Yeah, I mean, we all
Like
are.
it's like I'm
And
empty
it
and I'm like
happens.
I can't walk.
Yes. Yeah. So again, it all goes back to that balance and moderation. I know these are words that people probably hear all the time, but it really is true. Like the extremes of either way are usually not good for the long term.
Now, I want to talk about calories, if you don't mind.
Yeah.
Because especially as women, the word calorie seems to be a trigger.
Yeah.
For all of us. And I don't really know like how it started and why it's the case, but it seems like, and correct me if I'm wrong, it seems like what you're saying isn't actually as much about calories as it is about the portions and the types of food in which you're eating.
Yeah. And at the end of the day, to lose weight, you need to consume less calories than you burn. That's just basic weight loss if that's your focus.
Sure.
So yes, calories do matter, but I don't, when we're sitting counting every single calorie, that's not having a healthy relationship with our food. So I think taking it a step back and like higher level, like thinking higher level instead of so tediously thinking about every single calorie that we put in our body.
Yeah.
And having that balance is so, like you just said, like that's so much more important. Making sure we're including all of those food groups is more important than, did I hit my calorie goal today?
Yeah. No, that makes so much sense. And I'm thinking about the person now so for instance, I just had a friend have twins. And so her body has obviously been through a ton. Like everything changes.
Oh, yeah.
When you go through pregnancy.
Oh, yeah.
And, I think about anybody who has also maybe gone through a traumatic event, like a loss of a loved one. There is a lot that your body goes through and goes into. What do people in those instances need to remember about food besides just remembering to eat, period? Like, what is important for them, for your body to not just survive in that moment, but end up thriving through it?
Yeah. That's a tough one because, sometimes getting through the day for people who are going through, whether it be pregnancy, whether it be having twin newborns, I can't imagine. A newborn in itself is having one newborn is a lot.
Yeah.
And you are truly just, I need to get through the day. And like you said, that remembering to eat and nourish our body is important. And maybe that's, a peanut butter sandwich or leftover, whatever it is. Maintaining that healthy relationship with food is very difficult during those times.
Definitely.
I mean, it just is. And I would never want somebody to get too wrapped up into trying to check all these boxes.
Sure.
Related to food.
Sure.
Because
It's the last thing you can think about. Yeah.
at that point in your life, that's not what's on your mind.
Yeah.
But on the flip side, you have to have the energy to show up for your newborns or for your loved ones or for your job, whatever it might be, you know, like you mentioned, like a traumatic time, like when you're just trying to get through the day.
Yeah.
And so, gosh, I would say just focus on going back to, you know, basics. Did I have carbohydrates? Did I have protein every time I ate? And just like keep it simple and, you know, keep easy things around, whether it's a protein bar or, you know, and have an apple, whatever it is.
Yeah.
If you ate 3 times a day.
Yeah. It's a win.
That's a win some days.
For sure.
And that's okay.
And that's really bringing into focus what you said about the food is fuel.
Yeah.
Because I so often don't think about it as much as that. Is like, oh, my stomach's telling me I'm hungry. Let's go. But then sometimes it's like that Grinch line. I'm like, am I just eating because I'm bored?
Well,
you know?
yeah.
But it is important to think about it as like our body is the engine.
Yes.
We need to fill it appropriately.
Yeah.
With what's going to give this engine
Yeah.
the longevity it needs.
Yes.
Living in this age of the world where science is so crazy and we're able to make and create all of these new foods, which seems kind of like mind-bending, you know?
Yes.
Like generations past can't imagine we're creating new foods. Not new meals, not new recipes, new foods.
Yes.
In general. Here's what I would love to hear your take on.
Okay.
Because there are all these new foods coming out. For instance, I talked about this mac and cheese. Like, this one brand is like, chickpea, 15 grams of protein, blah, blah, blah. And the stats look good.
Yes.
Do the stats tell the whole story when it comes to food? Or do we need to be careful because of the amount of ingredients that make said stats possible? Just help me understand that a little better.
Yeah. I would say it probably is good. Like, it's not like going to be bad for you or anything like that.
Yeah.
I know it's weird to see all these new foods, but that's meant, you know, it's made by the diet industry and things like that to be like mac and cheese. But when I'm craving mac and cheese, I want some Kraft mac and cheese. I don't want the chickpea pasta mac and cheese.
Right. Yes.
So I think, you know, again, going back to that healthy relationship, we've got to have that balance between like our hunger, our fullness, but also our pleasure. So like that is a part of having a healthy relationship with food is the pleasure aspect
Finding
of it.
the joy in it too.
Yes, exactly. So if you're craving mac and cheese and you go and have a bowl of the chickpea, I can't say that I've ever tried it, but the
It actually
chickpea
smacks.
pasta mac and cheese. Like, is that satisfying that craving?
Right.
And if it is, great. Like, that's a great option. But if it's not, and we're still wanting the mac and cheese that we had in childhood,
Yeah.
the nostalgic mac and cheese,
Totally.
then we're still going to want that.
Yeah.
So I think, again, having that balance of like, yes, I'm going to make healthy choices all day, you know, that's great. But satisfying our cravings is sometimes important too.
Yeah. Well,
So.
I want to dig into that.
Yes.
When is satisfying cravings actually important? And how do you toe that line correctly without going overboard?
That it's not easy, I would say.
Yeah.
But I think where it has to start is giving yourself permission to have those foods. So it starts, you know, before you even have the craving for the mac and cheese or the cup, whatever that craving might be. It starts well before that and telling yourself, hey, it's okay to eat those foods. And, you know, I think everybody's, even as a dietitian, like, I struggled with this for many years about thinking like I have to eat perfect all day, every day.
Because people are watching me.
Exactly. Like people always ask, like, what do you eat every day?
Yeah.
Like that's always something people want to ask a dietitian. So giving yourself permission, saying like, it's okay to have those foods. And again, going back to there's no good foods versus bad foods.
Yeah.
I think we really struggle, as a society, we have this list of foods that we all think like, oh, these are healthy foods. Totally. These are good foods. And oh, these are unhealthy, bad foods. Like we shouldn't eat those. So then we do feel guilty when we go and get the chicken tenders. Like we feel guilty.
Yeah.
And I think if we can get away from that, we would just have that balance. And because you're not going to be craving mac and cheese every day. Like it's just not going to happen.
Yeah, and that's what's so beautiful about what you said is like you're not saying every day, and you're saying like occasionally. And I love that you're saying there's no good food versus bad food, because I think when we take on that food identity, we become this is bad, therefore I'm bad.
Yeah. Yeah.
Whereas
absolutely.
nobody said that.
No, never.
So you shouldn't be telling yourself that either.
Right.
I love that. I love that permission to give yourself grace in that moment.
Yeah.
And also not even indulge as much as enjoy.
Yes.
I think that's the thing.
Yes,
right?
exactly.
Like, indulging is like you're just like basking in it. Whereas enjoying is like you're like, I'm really loving this moment.
Yes. And once I've had people tell me, like, once I told myself and allowed myself, hey, I can eat this, like, I don't crave it as much as I thought. Like, I don't want the cupcake every single day.
Yep.
Like that craving's not there.
Yeah.
And so I just think that's so important to allow yourself, hey, I can eat these foods when I want them. I'm not going to go overboard. I think everybody's so worried. Like if I allow myself to have one cupcake, I'm going to eat 12. Like that rarely happens. Like that to eat 12 cupcakes, that would be a lot.
That would hurt my stomach.
Exactly. And you're not going to feel good, and you're going to be like, okay,
I'm calling off work.
Right.
Sorry.
Exactly.
I ate 12 cupcakes. What a terrible, can't show up today because I ate a dozen cupcakes,
Well, and people get in the mindset, like, I'm going to start on Monday. Like, that's a big...
Yeah, why do we do that?
Big thing. I don't know.
Do you think we're just, like, so into, like, new slate?
Yes, like clean slate, just like New Year's resolutions. Like, January 1st, like, I'm not eating this anymore. So then we go on a binge and eat every, like, that's not healthy either.
Yeah.
So again, allowing ourselves, like, hey, when there's a birthday party that I go to, like, I can have a piece of cake if I want it. Like, if I don't have to have it, but I'm going to give myself permission to have that piece of cake.
I love that. So it's interesting you're talking about this, because I actually just talked about this in an episode where I was really down protein-wise in how much I was eating. And Jared, my husband, was discussing this with me, and he's like, we got to get your protein up. Yeah. And he was just like, because I want you to have more energy. It wasn't like, because you need to look good, because you need to blah, blah. It was literally just like, your energy's down. What can more protein do for you? Yes. And I have this ice cream addiction. Like every day, every night, I'd be like, I need ice cream. Yeah. So I started eating more protein, and naturally, I stopped wanting ice cream every day. And I was mad at first. I was like, how dare you take it? He's like, I didn't do anything. I was trying to give you energy. But it is crazy how it works whenever you fight for balancing and going more in one direction of like, what gives my body fuel?
Right, exactly. So, and what makes me feel good.
Yes.
I think that's a big thing we forget. Like,
great point.
Yeah, we forget, like, if all you eat is fried foods, McDonald's, whatever fast food it is. Yeah. If that's all you're eating, you're not going to feel very good. Like, it's hard. Like, you're not going to feel great. Yeah. And I think some people have lost sight on how good they could feel. Like, so often it's like, true. Oh, this is just how it is. Like, oh, I'm a few years older. Like, I'm just going to be like, this is just how it is. Yeah. But, I mean, it could probably be better. And I think we need to fight for that and say, like, okay, like, I don't feel great. Like, what needs to change and how can I feel better? And a lot of it can root back to the food that we're nourishing our body with. For sure. And that's literally the crux of this whole episode is, like, your relationship with your health, your relationship with your food impacts
everything else.
Oh, yeah.
So I love this. And I guess I want to ask now a question for someone who is trying to fight for healthier options in their life. And let's just say that, you know, they're in a family and they're like, okay, so like in my family, nobody else really wants to do this thing that I'm trying to do. So they feel relatively unsupported.
Yeah.
What would your encouragement be to someone who's in that position right now, where it really feels like everything else is going against them?
Yeah. Yeah. And I come across this a lot with patients where, and especially like with a new diagnosis, it's like, oh, I need, like, they're motivated now to make changes because maybe they're newly diagnosed with diabetes and they want to make those changes, but their family's like, oh no, we're still gonna, you know, get takeout every night, or I'm still gonna drink my regular Coke, and, you know, things like that. And
Love that for you.
It is very, very hard.
Yeah.
And I always just encourage people to, if your family is not supporting and just not there, and so it takes time. Like, people can stay in that kind of pre-contemplation range for a long time.
Yeah.
Is look outside your family. So whether it's a friend, another relative, you know, a neighbor, somebody at church, you know, like whoever it might be, just start, you know, talking to people and find a support person. All you need is one.
So
one support person.
That's an interesting challenge you're bringing to the table, though. And I actually really appreciate it. Because not only is this entire podcast about fighting for relationships because you're worth having incredible relationships, but you're actually saying if you are not supported where you are, go and make yourself even more uncomfortable to make friends with people that will support you.
Yeah.
I think that's beautiful because it's showing that in every area you do not need to settle.
Right.
And you're worth more than that.
Absolutely.
I love that so much.
Absolutely. And you're going to find, like, you know, maybe it's you join a new gym and you find someone there, or go to a new class, or, I mean, there are so many groups out there. And while, you know, social media can have its negatives, I think that's one of the awesome things about social media. You can literally get on Facebook and find a group for anything. Whether it's,
so true. I
have a golden doodle and I want to find other people with golden doodles.
Yes.
There is a group on Facebook for you.
I love it.
So I like, it's awesome that it's at, you know, on our phone, that we can just like reach out and find support that way. And it doesn't have to be someone in our small community supporting us. It doesn't have to be.
Yeah. So interesting, because support groups are super unique in the sense of you can actually get that fight to go one more day with a little dopamine hit, even from being in a social media group of someone just like motivating you.
Yeah, like somebody posted like this awesome new recipe.
Yeah.
Like, oh, wow, that looks great. I'm going to try that.
Yeah.
Like something as simple as that.
Yeah. No, I love that, because if you're finding that there isn't anybody immediately near you, one, don't give up, because in-person relationships are the most important. But in the meantime, as a supplement, look on social media.
Yeah,
find
absolutely.
a group. Do the work.
I don't think it hurts to talk to your family. I mean, don't give up on them.
Yeah.
So express to them like why it's important to you. Like, hey, I'm really trying to make these changes because I want to reduce my risk of heart disease, or whatever your why is. Share your why with them, and that might be all it takes to motivate them to support you. So yeah, don't give up on your family just because at first glance it's like, oh, they're not really supporting me, so why I'm not going to do this either.
Yeah. I think that's so beautiful, because even in that conversation, you're not saying, I want all of us to do the following.
Yeah.
You're just saying, hey, this is what I'm choosing to do, and this is why I believe is important. And that just changes the entire optics of the conversation.
Yeah.
Because nobody should hear that and feel threatened.
Right.
So I think that's great. So because this podcast is about building relational wealth,
Yep.
and we're just talking about relationships, how to have them right, I want to know, in your opinion, what are the 3 most important characteristics and traits you actually look for in your relationships?
That's a great question. One, I would say passionate.
Oh, I love it.
Whether, you're passionate about your job, your, loved ones.
Mm-hmm.
I think having that passion is really important.
For sure.
Another one I would say is trustworthy.
Mm-hmm.
So I feel like that one explains itself.
Yeah, for sure. But the interesting caveat with trustworthy is you have to trust somebody
Yeah.
before you find if they're trustworthy or not.
Yes, that is true. Third, I would say humor, having a sense of humor.
Yes. Yes.
Yeah, that is important just to get through life. I feel like you need a sense of humor, and that is a big one for me.
Yeah, absolutely.
I like people that can make me laugh.
I do too.
Yeah,
What is the world without laughter?
exactly.
People are listening to this and they might be feeling a lot of different things. Whether it's like, actually, I'm doing better than I thought, according to this. Or you're on the other hand and you are thinking, okay, I definitely binge. I definitely do all of these things and I want to learn how to be more balanced. What would your encouragement be to that person?
Well, first, don't give up. And
For sure.
kind of like we talked about earlier is start simple. And always remember tomorrow's a new day. Like, we don't have to start on a Monday. We can start on a Tuesday. We can start on a Wednesday night, a Saturday morning, whatever it is. Tomorrow's a new day. And just if you felt like you messed up today, which you didn't, we can try again tomorrow.
I love that. And you know what else I love that you said? Is it's not even like new day, new page kind of thing.
Yeah.
You're actually saying start with one meal.
Oh, yeah.
So if you're
Like, oh, my
botched
breakfast wasn't great.
Exactly.
Oh, lunch is in 4 hours.
Here we go.
How can we do better?
I love that. I love the mentality.
Yeah.
Because it's not even about winning the day. Because sometimes winning the day for people is just like, okay.
Yeah. That's overwhelming.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Win the next meal.
Exactly. Or snack.
Yeah, there we go.
Yeah. If you have an afternoon snack, make it a great one.
Make it a great one. What? I want to just end the podcast with make it a great one, folks. We'll see you next week. Anna, thank you for the humor you have just ended the podcast with today. I've loved this conversation. It was actually really challenging for me, and I really appreciate that. I really appreciate your expertise, and thank you. Thanks for watching Accident. I almost had it. Thank you so much for listening to this What am I saying? Thank you so much for listening to this episode of Accidentally Intentional. If you want to listen to the rest of the relational health series, click up here or up here as we have all of the episodes in a playlist for you. We'll see you next time. There we go. There it is.
You can just cut it and make it a great one.
Make it a great one.
I said that.
Make it a great one, folks. It feels like an Eaton Park commercial. Like, make it a great one. I think it's
a smiley cookie.
Yes. I'm so dead.